On the morning of the 16th of August 1977, news spread across America and the world that Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, had been found dead at his home in Memphis, Tennessee. He was just 42 years old. To many people around the world, Elvis was a cultural icon who had shaped the sound of popular music, and he embodied the image of a modern celebrity. There was a huge amount of shock, and even the president at the time commented on his passing. His death was a moment in history that many millions of people still remember vividly, and in the decades since there have been many theories about his demise, but there was a picture taken of Elvis showing him inside of his coffin, and there has even been a significant amount of speculation and controversy about this. Join us today as we look at this, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. By the mid-1970s, Elvis Presley was no longer the young, slim, charismatic star who had revolutionized American music in the 1950s. His early career had been marked by groundbreaking records such as Heartbreak Hotel, 1956, and electrifying performances that scandalized parents and thrilled teenagers. After serving in the US Army, Elvis went on to star in a string of Hollywood films during the 1960s, though many of these were considered formulaic. By 1968, his career seemed to be fading until his legendary comeback special reignited his popularity. In the 1970s, Elvis became one of the highest paid performers in the world, playing to packed arenas in Las Vegas and across the United States. He pioneered the model of extended residencies in Vegas hotels, wearing his now famous rhinestone jumpsuits. Yet behind the glamorous image, Elvis was struggling. He had developed an unhealthy lifestyle marked by late-night eating, lack of exercise, and above all, dependence on prescription drugs. Friends and band members noticed his growing reliance on a cocktail of sedatives, painkillers, and stimulants. His weight ballooned, his mood often shifted unpredictably, and his once dynamic stage performances sometimes turned sluggish. Dr. George Nikopoulos, known as Dr. Nick, prescribed him large quantities of medications, a practice that would later come under heavy criticism. By 1977, Elvis's health was clearly deteriorating, and he was often described as bloated, pale, and unwell, but his fame and status meant that few around him could confront him directly. Elvis Presley spent his last day, August 15th, 1977, at his beloved Graceland mansion in Memphis. He had recently returned from a concert tour and was rescheduled to fly out the next day to begin another set of shows. That evening, Elvis was in the company of his fiancée, Ginger Alden, as well as members of his entourage. According to accounts, Elvis played racquetball with friends in the early hours of the morning and later returned to Graceland. Sometime around 9:30 a.m. on August 16th, he went into his bedroom, and hours later, at around 2 p.m., Ginger Alden discovered him lying unconscious on the floor. He was rushed to Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis, but efforts to resuscitate him failed. Elvis was officially pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m. and he was 42 years old. The immediate cause of Elvis Presley's death was given as a heart attack. However, the situation was complicated. The autopsy revealed that his heart was enlarged and that he had significant cardiovascular disease, conditions unusual for a man of his age, but exacerbated by his lifestyle. Toxicology reports later showed that Elvis had high levels of prescription drugs in his system, including codeine, Valium, and morphine. Although the official report concluded these drugs did not directly kill him, it was clear that years of dependency had severely weakened his body. And in 1979, Dr. Jerry Francisco, the medical examiner who had overseen the autopsy, announced that drugs were not a factor in Elvis's death. This claim was widely criticised. Later studies of the autopsy files, as well as testimony from those close to Elvis, strongly suggested that his long-term drug abuse contributed to his fatal heart attack. The controversy surrounding his cause of death has fueled speculation ever since, with some insisting that the true extent of his drug problems was downplayed to protect his legacy. The news of Elvis Presley's death was broadcast quickly across television and radio. For millions of fans, it was an almost unimaginable loss. Outside Graceland, thousands gathered to mourn, leaving flowers, notes, and tributes at the gates. Radio stations played his greatest hits on repeat, and across America and around the world, people wept openly. President Jimmy Carter issued a statement from the White House declaring that Elvis had permanently changed the face of American popular culture. The statement recognized Elvis not only as an entertainer, but as a cultural phenomenon who had bridged the gap between racial divides by bringing rhythm and blues to mainstream audiences. Now, in the moments after his death, Elvis was embalmed and he was then prepared for burial inside of a white coffin. This was draped in white cloth, and then at some point a picture of Elvis in his open coffin was taken. This photo ran on the cover of the National Enquirer on the 6th of September 1977, weeks after Elvis' death. There was a lot of speculation about the photo, and some have claimed that Elvis looked too thin, and those who attended the funeral claimed that it did not resemble the corpse inside of the body. There were also claims that the nose was not right, and some have actually theorised that the photo was actually a wax dummy inside of the coffin. Some others believe that the photo in the coffin was taken at the time of the funeral held at Graceland on the 18th of August 1977. Some have theorised that the embalming process made Elvis look different. But this wasn't the end for his coffin or his remains. After his funeral, he had been buried in Forest Hill Cemetery. But then there was an attempted grave robbery on his coffin and corpse, and it was said that early this morning 3 men entered the cemetery over the back wall and made their way towards the white marble mausoleum. The men apparently became suspicious and turned to leave, and they were arrested. These men were, it said, involved in a plot to steal Elvis's body. Police had received a tip that the men planned to kidnap the body and then hold it for ransom, presumably millions of dollars. With this, the family then decided to move the coffin and remains of Elvis Presley back to Graceland, where he was buried inside of the meditation garden and is still laid to rest there today. The exhumation allegedly took 2 white hearses to be completed, and it was escorted by 8 city police officers and 5 deputies from local sheriff offices. Someone who watched the procession to Graceland said, "It was a sombre and sad crowd, but most of them, like me, were sort of happy because Elvis is back home again." Elvis's funeral was held at Graceland on August 18th, 1977. Around 80,000 people lined the streets of Memphis to watch as his coffin was taken to Forest Hill Cemetery. Later, after an attempted theft of his body, his remains were moved to the meditation garden at Graceland, where they rest today. And almost immediately after his death, rumours began to circulate that Elvis had not really died. Some fans claimed to have seen him alive, boarding a plane or walking into a gas station, and theories emerged suggesting he had faked his death to escape the pressure of fame. Tabloid magazines in the 1980s frequently published stories of Elvis sightings. These conspiracy theories were fueled by the fact that Elvis's body, when displayed in his coffin, reportedly looked somewhat different due to heavy makeup and cosmetic work. This led some to claim it was a wax figure. Whilst the evidence overwhelmingly shows that Elvis Presley died in 1977, the persistence of these myths demonstrates the depth of his impact. For many fans, it was simply too difficult to accept that the king could be gone. Elvis Presley's death on August 16, 1977, shocked the world and ended the life of one of the most important cultural figures of the 20th century. While the official cause was a heart attack, the role of prescription drugs, abuse and poor health was undeniable. The event triggered widespread mourning, but it was also elevated Elvis to a new level of legend. Today, nearly half a century later, Elvis remains a towering figure in music history. His songs are still played, his films are still watched, and his image continues to inspire new generations. The fascination with his death, the unanswered questions, the conspiracy theories, the tragic symbolism of a life cut short has only added to his mystique. Elvis Presley was and remains the king of rock and roll. His death was not only the end of a man, but the closing chapter of a cultural revolution that continues to echo through popular music and global culture. Thank you for watching, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. And once again, thank you so much for watching.